Whatever it is, I've just activated it.
So, imagine you have just 30 minutes to find and defuse that bomb, or else everything blows up. You beat the terrorists, you crack the code. Now, all you need to do is defuse the bomb. But one little thing, you forgot the code. And it doesn't matter what you do, you just can't remember the code. Now imagine living your whole life like that, every waking minute. That, for the most part, is how I live my life. You're probably wondering exactly who I am. I'm Marcus Flenser. I'm an award-winning filmmaker, I'm a writer, I'm a producer. I've made 7 feature films, I've written and produced 2 feature films. And I'm going to teach you how I made an Amazon feature film in just 3 months. I survive on just 4 hours sleep a day. And from the minute I wake up to the minute I sleep, I am seeking completion of something. Stop! Stop? Whose voice was that? God? You do not have to live life like that in order to succeed. Honestly speaking, I would not recommend it either. But the key thing is, seek completion. Now let's time travel. 2022, 23rd of May. I am watching the Stanley Kubrick classic, Full Metal Jacket.
I'm Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, your senior drill instructor. From now on, you will speak only when spoken to.
And suddenly I pause. I have a thought. I have an idea. What if the drill sergeant was a personal trainer? Now, I've always wanted a personal trainer. I've always thought about how I would respond having a personal trainer. How would I react? What if the personal trainer was like this?
What have we got here? A fucking comedian, private joker. I admire your honesty. Hell, I like you. You can come over to my house and my sister. You little scumbag! I got your name. I got your ass! You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the numbers. I will teach you. Now get up. Get on your feet.
And I'd just gone through a little mini obsession of watching videos like this.
Guys, if a girl ever tells you, I want a break, you never take her back.
Yeah.
It's over.
Why?
It's over.
Losers lose because they quit.
Then I had an idea. What if a guy was obsessed with getting into shape for the woman of his dreams? And he was also obsessed with the manosphere. But deep down, he was a lost, gentle soul. Would that juxtaposition work? So I started writing. The whole thing, from the beginning. My rule of thumb when it comes to writing is, if you find yourself struggling and running out of steam whilst writing the screenplay, this probably isn't the right screenplay for you, at this minute in time at least. If there's no legs in it, take a pause and move on to something else. I always use Final Draft for my screenplays. Now, I'm not sponsored by them, but I can be swayed, so hit me up. Final Draft is the best screenwriting software, bar none. However, I'll put a link to a few free and cheaper screenwriting softwares. Now, I'm a fast screenwriter, so I could, and I did, finish the screenplay in just 5 days. If you watch my last video on screenwriting, you'll see my main advice here is get it done. Do not procrastinate. Procrastination will be the death of you, believe me. Get yourself off that seat, get your mind into a good place and begin whatever it is you need to begin, because believe me, once you start, you will not stop. And if you do stop, start again. Now this leads to my term, seek completion. If you start something, finish it. Get it done. You will not know what the results are until you get it done. My theory here is, what if I die tomorrow? No one will see my masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
3 drafts down the line, and only 13 days later, I have my first draft. I am now comfortable enough to cast. So it's time to contact my casting director. This film, the characters were very archetypal. My PT had to be big and strong, very commanding, very dominating, physically and mentally. My lead protagonist had to be out of shape and weak. And then I get a self-tape from this guy.
Just kicking your ass.
A little. He comes in. Big thighs, big fuck off arms.
Oh, you know, raise your game. What did you eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner? You whip, raise your game. And my plan goes out the window. He's too young, he's in too good shape, but he gets the character, and he's a really good actor. It puts me in quite the predicament. I have to cast him. For our female protagonist, this wonderful actress is just perfect.
What you do with the flowers? They're in a vase? It's where you typically put flowers?
For my PT, I use an actor I've worked with before in my feature film, Blonde Purple. He's also a PT in real life, so... Casting process took just 2 weeks. In the background, I'm still working on the screenplay. I'm not procrastinating. I am working still on that screenplay, making it perfect. Draft 4 just complete. Month 2. It's time for rehearsals. All directors work differently. Mike Leigh, the highly influential British director, doesn't work with a script per se. He does rehearsals around an idea, and then from that, he will extrapolate a script using the recordings that he did in the rehearsals when the actors ad-libbed the lines based on the scenes. Some directors are meticulous. Kubrick was notorious for this.
Oh, come on. What do you mean roll
2
video?
seconds.
We're fucking killing ourselves out here and you're going to be ready.
I am too. I'm standing
Should we
right
play
by
mood
the
music?
door. No, I
Yeah,
can't
but when
hear.
you came in like this, you said just
We're sitting there because they say, wait a minute, and then you say on the radio,
but when you
go.
do it, you've got to look desperate, Shelley. You're just wasting everybody's time now.
I'm kind of a mixture of both. See, what I like to do in life is I like to learn from people's mistakes. That's how I evolve. I watch other people, I see their mistakes, I learn from them, and I make sure I don't do the same thing. I also learn from my own mistakes because believe me, I have made plenty of mistakes in life. Plenty of mistakes. And you have to learn from them. It's the most important thing and the most important gift that you have. With rehearsals, I rehearse as much as physically possible. It's difficult because mixing actors' schedules together is always notoriously hard. On top of that, you're paying for actors when they come to rehearsals. So if your budget does not allow for this, well, I would only do 1 rehearsal, but I would at least do 1 rehearsal. The main reason I do as many rehearsals as possible is for, number 1, this is so the actors can get to know each other and get to know myself. If we're comfortable with one another, it allows us to go to places we would never normally go to. 2, when shooting low budget, you're always fighting time. Just like that bomb thing I was doing earlier on. I wonder if that's going to come back into play at some point, eh? You don't have the luxury of reshoots, you don't have the luxury of more days to shoot. So, if the actors can get onto set, well rehearsed, well prepared, well blocked out, it saves you so much time and therefore saves you so much money. Now, from working on 3 feature films prior to this film, I knew that the budget would come to about 30 to 50k. With that in mind, I knew I had limitations in terms of locations. For example, I couldn't shoot here. I would absolutely love if you would subscribe, comment, like, and share this video. It really helps with the algorithm. It really helps me to grow. It helps me to do more videos like this.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Knowing the budgetary constraints on myself, I knew that my script couldn't have any explosions, car chases, Brad Pitt, Denzel Washington, Michael B. Jordan, or this.
Everyone has ace. Ace, ace, ace. Ace, 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 ace. Everyone has ace.
I knew that I had to write locations and scenes that were well within my budget. I actually self-produce my films, which means that I handle costs, budgeting, locations, pretty much everything, if I'm being honest with you. Normally I have a production manager who helps out with various little things like that. However, the bulk of everything is on my shoulders. Now the reason why I do that is because I've done this so many times. I know how to get things done within budget. However, I would recommend if you can get someone to help you, please use someone, because often I end up like this again. With that in mind, I would also set my budget out beforehand. Know exactly what your budget is, or have a rough idea of your budget. Make sure you do not exceed your budget, because you will be in a lot of financial difficulties. I typically use Studio Binder for this part of the process. It's an incredibly useful tool for filmmakers. This relates to pre-production and production. Again, I am not sponsored by them. However, if you want to hit me up. Another reason I rehearsed this film is because there was a really cool choreographed dance sequence, which required 2 main actors and 9 dancers. So I needed an incredible choreographer. So she came on board. So I had a screenplay. Draft 7 was the completed shooting script, 87 pages, which relates to about 87 minutes in real time. If you don't know this rule of thumb, let me talk you through it. Every single page that you write on your screenplay relates to a minute in real time. So if your pages are 90 pages, you have an hour and a half film, in theory. However, once you get into the editing suite and you're taking out scenes, or you may have scenes that you want to add to, maybe you've got some B-roll, it may be a bit longer or a bit shorter. I had my cast, I had my locations, and I had my crew, consisting of mainly people I'd worked with before. Time to shoot, baby! We began on July the 7th, 2022. 13 intense days of shooting. We didn't shoot consecutively. The budget didn't allow for that. We had to shoot on days locations were available and crew and cast were available.
Is there a theme going on here?
However, we shot over the space of roughly 2.5 weeks, including the hottest day in the history of the UK.
The record high temperature set in London today, some climate scientists didn't expect it until 2050.
I had the film in the can. It was time for post-production. Month 3, this is where the editing started. For this film, my normal editor was actually busy on another feature. He was just finishing it. So what I did, I started the edit myself. This was the first time I've actually edited a feature film. I've edited shorts, fashion films, very short form content. But never a feature film. Now for editing, I use DaVinci Resolve. I'm not sponsored by them either, but again, hit me up. Many prefer Premiere. The industry standard is actually Avid, which I've never used, but I've heard it's very good, so yeah. Now I prefer DaVinci Resolve, the reason being, it's so intuitive. Also, most colorists use DaVinci Resolve, so the workflow of working between the timeline on DaVinci Resolve and passing it on to your colorist is a lot more smoother. Now, as it was my first time editing a feature film, I made a few mistakes, including editing each scene as a different project. That was stupid because it led to huge problems down the line. I also learned from my own mistakes because believe me, I have made plenty of mistakes in life. Having said that, I edited about 85% of the film within 10 days. When the real editor came on board, that's when the film started to become magical. He put together something quite special. So we got to picture lock stage within 3 weeks. Picture lock stage is the stage where the picture is locked. Pretty simple stuff, right?
Nope.
What it essentially means is at that point, you can then pass on the film to your sound designer and your colorist. Because essentially your film is locked, it's done. Your side of the editing process is done. It allows the sound designer and the colorist to make amendments to your work without having to go back over it again with more edits that you may want to do in the future. Which at this point, when your picture is locked, is pretty much very difficult, especially for a sound designer, especially for a colorist. I would not, once picture locked, make any changes. However, I did make a few. I also learned from my own mistakes because believe me, I have made plenty of mistakes in life. A colorist, I've said this word about 1 million times so far. So let me tell you what a colorist is. A colorist is the person who makes your film look pretty. They jump into whatever software they use to color grade your work. Now, normally it is DaVinci Resolve. Some people do use other software like Final Cut, for example. Back to the whole idea of picture locking something and me making changes afterwards. The reason you do not make changes after you picture lock, after you get the approval from the director and the producer, which in this case was myself, but sometimes, and in most cases, is 2 different very people. Once you get picture lock, making changes after that can be very costly and not very time effective. So make sure That final edit is your final edit before you get it to a sound designer or colorist. So, 2 weeks later, 3 months down the line, we have a completed picture.
Randy, 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 Randy.
We love you, Randy.
Make love to me, Randy.
After editing my first feature film, or getting to a stage where it was at a point where it could be edited, I'm now way more confident when it comes to editing a feature film. Now, since making this feature film, I've actually gone on to make 3 other feature films. One I produced and wrote, and the other 2 I've directed and wrote myself. But with these 3 subsequent feature films, I have been very integral to the editing process. And within the editing process, I've made sure that I get to think about one thing in particular, the trailer. When you're editing the feature film, when you're putting together the scenes, even when you're writing the screenplay, I'm always thinking about the trailer, because unfortunately we live in a time where the trailer sells your movie to distributors and also to sales agents. So with that in mind, doing the trailer was a key element of post-production. Now thankfully I had 2 amazing editors for this. They were separate to the film editor. They cut together 2 incredible trailers, and from their trailers I was able to sell the film to Gravitas Ventures. And the film will now be available worldwide on January the 2nd, 2024. I promise I will do a video on the sales and distribution part of the process very soon. And that's it. That's how I made a movie within 3 months. Wait a minute. 3 months? That's it. That's the code. Oh, actually, that's not the code. Procrastination will be the death of you, believe me. Damn. Now I'm a fast writer, so I could finish the screenplay. Now I'm working on 3 feature. Now from working on 3 feature. From working on 3 feature films prior to this, I knew the budget for this film would come in at about $30,000 to $50,000.